So welcome back to Backstage with DJ, and today I have a guest who I would say is a legend in his scene. His band is from Santa Cruz, California, and I would like to welcome Geoff Weers from the Expendables to the show.
Howdy, howdy. Pleasure to be here.
All right, so you guys are celebrating 25 years as a band and doing an anniversary tour. How does it feel to be going on 25 years?
It feels amazing. It's like such a blessing. I feel like not many bands last this long. Um, and so I am grateful every day to be doing what I love for a living for as long as I've been doing it. And it just means the world to me that we could still go out there and play shows. I still get to record records, and I still get to create songs and music and perform. It's absolutely amazing. I think I appreciate it more now than I ever have.
What would you tell a younger version of yourself?
About being in a band for this long.
Yeah,
Um, I would tell the younger version of myself just to be like, just what would I say? Get ready for the long ride, bro, because it's gonna last for a while. And get better and better at what you're doing because it's the gift that keeps on giving.
for sure, for sure. How's the preparation for this upcoming tour been, and what makes it different from your past tours?
As far as prep goes, we've been doing this for so long, so we kind of are pretty good at. We don't really need to practice too much. We all know the material so well. Most of the prep has already been done. This tour is kind of spreading itself across pretty much this whole year. Um, Gone are the days where we hop into the bus and do a 6 week tour and bang out a bunch of dates back to back to back to back. So we're spreading it out over a whole, pretty much all of this year, in weekend kind of chunks, because just the logistics and the overhead of touring has gotten so much more expensive since the pandemic. And a lot of bands share the sentiment where it's just like it's not even worth it, to do big long tours when you're renting a big vehicle and paying a lot of crew to be out there for a long time. It's just financially doesn't make sense, at least for bands at our level. So, but that aside from that, we kind of hashed out our set earlier this year, kind of, made up the transitions and the kind of intro song, and the prep's already been done. So it's just kind of uh, waiting for the shows to happen and be kind of ready. We're currently recording a record too, so there's a lot of that going on in between all these shows.
When can we expect the first singles to be coming out?
I don't know. It's kind of the process of our record recording, is kind of been done in chunks. Since we're kind of spreading the tour out over a long period of time, we are getting like small chunks of actually time to work on it. So, I mean, we have like, I don't know, I would say like 10 songs that are kind of at a point where they are recorded and almost ready for a mix. But then once we get a mix and a master of a track and we're deciding, hey, we want to put it out, it takes, 2 or 3 months for our, management and label to advertise it and let people know something's coming. So I don't anticipate something coming out very soon, but there's a lot of new material in the chamber getting ready. So be on the lookout.
I'll be looking. Who are some of the bands that we can expect to see you out on tour this year with?
Uh, we're kind of working some of that out. It depends on where we are in the country. We'd like to get kind of local regional bands to do whatever region we're in. So a lot of it hasn't been decided on some of the shows that are coming up. So that question, I don't know. Yeah.
So just keep a lookout.
Yeah, you guys, yeah, really that stuff is kind of, if you got to keep following us closely to kind of get that information.
Who are some of the bands that you're hoping to have on the tour?
I'm hoping to have, maybe some bands that are kind of our friends, like maybe Pacifier. Um, but I'm also looking forward to, grabbing some local bands that we've never heard of. And that's some of the joy of doing what we're doing and being in it for so long. Like the scene has gotten so much bigger,
Mm.
and there's a lot of younger bands coming up and really doing some good work. And I get excited to see what the fresh new flavors are coming out of the woodwork. So, um, yeah, I like being surprised when it comes to the openers.
Who are some of these newer bands that you would tell people to take a look at?
Well, there's a band we've been talking about called Dale and the Z Dubs. I don't know how old they are or new they are, but they're kind of sizzling up. There's a band called the Irie that we've been kind of playing with we just did a show with not too long ago. They're pretty sick. Um, Man, I can't think of anything right now, but those two.
I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those bands hopefully on tour with you guys then. So on top of this whole celebration, I saw you guys are also playing Warp Tour this year, and
Yeah,
I was wondering how it feels for a tour this monumental in music to be coming back and for you guys to be a part of that.
it's great. I mean, the Warp Tour was a big part of my growing up. It was a big deal back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the Warp Tours that I went to as a fan were, you know, an opportunity to see some of the bands that I have always wanted to see, very influential in watching them perform at the time where I was, kind of learning how to do the Expendables and how to be a performer myself. So it was a great opportunity to kind of see all the bands all at once in one day, 2 days, and absorb all that influential information. Um, and then we actually did a Warp Tour. I can't remember, 2011 or something like that, a long time ago. Um, and that was great to be part of that. And it was such an eye opener to how much of a grind that tour was, and how hard everybody worked on that tour. And watching some of the younger bands that may not, have the best traveling situations, like really grind it out and pull through. I mean, it's such a grueling tour. Back in the day, it was very long drives, and you had to be there early in the morning, and you couldn't leave until late at night. So you had a very small window to travel to the next town that was hundreds of miles away. And so you're, you know, trying to sleep in a tiny little van, or in our case, we had a sweet bus. But like, even then, like, it was a lot. And it just opened my eyes to how hard people are working out there, and how good we had it for a little while, before we did the Warp Tour. We never did the Warp Tour up until kind of midway through our professional career. And, you know, trying to do it, as a smaller band in a van, uh, would have been really tough. And, I kudos to all those bands that were grinding it out. But now to have it come back, it shows, there's such a demand. Like, all, the people that are now, that went to Warp Tour back in the day, are older now, and there's like a demand for, the old pop punk bands and all that stuff. So it's an honor to be a part of it. And yeah, it makes me happy to see that those styles of music that were represented in the older Warp Tours are still viable and coming back, and some of those bands are still wanting to jam.
Yeah, I'm 20 years old and I never got a chance to go to Warp Tour, but I've been listening to all these bands since I got to high school, and it's just been eye-opening to me. It's been amazing getting to find all these different bands, and like I found you guys in the mix too when I was like going through all these different bands too.
Very cool, very cool.
What are some of your favorite memories you think from being on that Warp Tour in 2011?
Oof. Some of the memories I don't have many of. We've drank a lot of we were, but some of the stuff, I mean, at the time maybe it felt hard, but like, just the memory of the camaraderie of everybody, everybody's in is this it's this big circus that travels from show to show, and the sense of community that gets forged when something is really hard, and it's like a huge group of people going through the same hard thing day in and day out for an entire summer. You really get to have a sense of community and closeness to these people, because you're going through these same experiences, whether the nuances of each experience, day in and day out, are different. The pressure and the heat and the kind of the hardships that you're going through are very similar, and we can all um, share in it and get closer because of it. So I think overall that was like what was really cool. You're just in it with this big group of people that are feeling the same, but you're all still having fun. Every time you're playing, it's great. Like, you're grinding it out, but the end result is this awesome festival show where people are coming from miles around, and they're there to see good music and feel good. And it's all for the uplifting of the people that are there. So you're grinding it out and it feels hard, but the end result is for something that's actually really positive. And so, yeah, that for me is the big impression that it left on me, is like the massive community that you feel when you're doing it is it's hard to find, and it doesn't really happen that often.
I had Howie Spangler from Ballyhoo on
I,
last year, and he was telling me his favorite part of. I saw the shirt as soon as he got on here. I love it. I have that one too, actually. But he was telling me one of his favorite parts was just being able to like hang out with all these different bands. Like you'd eat dinner with them, and it was just such a great sense of community, like you were saying.
yeah, it's absolutely true. And like you kind of like it's kind of like school or high school in a way, where there's all these different little cliques, and like people kind of gel up into these little tiny communities within the communities. And it's fun to get to know bands that you would never tour with, or the barriers are all down because you're all going through this gnarly thing. And so you can meet these people that maybe you idolize, or that you don't think you'd ever meet, because the genres of your music don't really cross paths outside of the Warped Tour. And so yeah, there's a lot of like the barriers to becoming friends with some of these people really melt away, and you can connect a lot easier with through this tough experience.
Who were some of those bands that you remember hanging out with?
There's some guys like we always were parked next to this band called Lucero, and we weren't close, but like they were cool, and I really loved their music. I'd never heard of them before, and then I would always like want to watch their shows. Oh God, who else did we hang out with? There was, I mean, the Pepper Dudes were on that tour, so we got to hang with them. Less Than Jake guys, I think, were on the tour. I can't remember. Um, who else? Man, I can't think of the name. Um, there was a couple other bands where we got kind of close, and the Agrolites, a couple of boys in the Agrolites I'd hang with. There was a band called Lion Eyes we'd pal around with. And I'm blanking on a few other ones, but yeah, good times.
What are you looking forward to about playing it in Orlando this year?
Um, I don't know what to expect. I mean, I look forward to every show as an opportunity to have fun and rock my ass off. But I haven't really thought about it, because it's not the same as far as like doing the driving around and grinding it out. We're just doing the one show, so we're kind of flying in and doing it, and doing a couple of shows around it. Uh, so I'm just looking forward to playing in front of a big crowd. I'm not really sure who else is on it. I'm actually going to be doing a set solo that day. Uh,
Okay.
so I'm looking forward to that. Like that's something really cool. Like I've been doing some solo music here on my own in Santa Cruz and kind of the local area here and there, acoustic stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And so the opportunity to go out to somewhere all the way across the country to do my solo gig is is super exciting for me. And I think that's what made Warped Tour special as well, is that like not only were these big bands cruising around and touring, Warped Tour would also give opportunities to the smaller bands in the local area and get them on a cool stage, the Ernie Ball stage or whatever it was, and give them an opportunity to play in front of a bigger crowd, get them an opportunity to meet their heroes, give them an opportunity to feel what it's like to step up in the music game. So I feel like I'm kind of, as from the solo artist perspective, I feel like Warped Tour is giving that opportunity to me as a smaller act, and so I feel really grateful and fortunate for that. Super stoked.
For sure. Now, I want you to take me back to the very beginning, back to when you were in school. How did you meet your fellow band members, and how did you guys start the band?
So let's see. I think the first person in our band that I met was Adam, and we were on the same little league team, same
Oh,
farm.
wow.
That like freaking 8 years old or 7 years old or something. We were on the Cubs, and then um, I met Raul, our guitar player, in junior high. And Adam and Raul had known each other since elementary school. They were
Hmm.
best buds forever, since elementary school. And so I kind of met them at alternating times, but we all went to the same junior high. So they went to a different elementary school than I did. But then when junior high hit, we all went to the same junior high. So we all intermingled there, and we all went to the same high school. And then we had a couple other dudes in the band that in the high school days, because we started in high school, that dropped out. And then our bass player Ryan went to another high school in the county, and he joined the band just after we graduated. Um, so yeah, we've known each other for a really long time, and the band was formed. So like I said, Adam and Raul had known each other for a long time, and when we were in high school, they got together and were just playing music. Um, Raul and I started playing guitar around the same time in junior high, but in high school, Adam and Raul, lead guitar player and drummer, got together with another buddy and started jamming around their own little band, playing covers at family backyard parties. And um, I was actually at one of those parties for a friend's birthday, and they were jamming, and we were all already friends, and it was cool to see them do their thing. And I was already playing music, playing guitar, and in the choir and in the jazz band. And it was kind of a funny joke that they couldn't figure out their band name. They kind of went through a bunch of crazy different band names. And I was at this party with them, and they were talking about the band their band name, and they couldn't decide on it. And I noticed that all the time they would call themselves Expendable, because they were get their instruments, and they would joke that like they could be easily replaced at any time, and they were expendable. I was like, you guys, you
Hmm.
don't call yourselves the Expendables. Dick. And they're like, what? That's cool. Like, yeah, that's what I want to be in the band too. And then that at that party, that's kind of where it kind of we all decided to play together. And then 25, more than 25 years later, we're still the same name.
Who were some of the bands that influenced you, and in what ways did they influence you as a writer and as a musician?
Man, well, I guess going back, I started playing guitar first, in junior high. Seventh grade is when I first started learning how to play. My older sister's boyfriend at the time was a guitar player, and he was in high school. They were in high school, um, and he was in a band. So my sister would let me tag along to some of their band practices, and I was like, "Whoa, this is freaking cool!" And her boyfriend was freaking cool, and so I sorry, a call came
It's
on
all
off.
good.
Sorry. And so he ended up teaching me how to play guitar, and he was the guitar player in the jazz band at the high school, SoCal High. And so he kind of taught me how to play guitar and kind of got me ready to be the jazz to hit be his replacement in the jazz band when I got to high school. And so that was kind of my introduction to being a guitar player. And so I was really influenced by a lot of guitar heavy music. Blues was a big thing that I loved. You know, I loved Eric Clapton, I loved Jimi Hendrix, I loved Stevie Ray Vaughan, I loved I got into metal, started listening to Metallica, Pantera. I really loved Dimebag Darrell. Um, and so like yeah, my early kind of musical influences were like kind of guitar heavy things. It wasn't until I got into high school where I started hanging out with these surfer bros. I learned how to surf and started hanging out with these like really stony longboard dudes, and they're the ones that started getting me into reggae. Um, you know, all growing up, I'd listen to Bob Marley Legend. You know, me and my
Hmm.
sister, we'd go on road trips with our parents, and that was like the big reggae record we'd listen to. But I didn't really think of reggae as like a I don't know style of music. I just knew who Bob Marley was.
Hmm.
It wasn't until high school and I met these super vibey uh, surfer bros that they're like, hey man, here's a bunch of like reggae music. You know, here's Burning Spear, here's Ika Mouse, here's Israel Vibration, and all these acts that I now have grown to love. They introduced me to, and they took me to my first reggae show, which was an Ika Mouse show,
Hmm.
and that show had a huge impact on me. Feeling the one drop groove happen for the first time, and how heavy it was, and how I was like, whoa, this is like as heavy as like freaking metal. Like the groove that they hit um, moved my soul. And from ever since then, I like dove deep into reggae music and never really come back. It's a huge part of my life ever since then. It's such a powerful music form, and it's like kind of rhythmically, it's opposite from rock and roll. It's like rock and roll is very heavy on the one, where reggae music removes the one, um, and I loved that polar opposite in music. And when I heard Slightly Stupid's Longest Barrel Ride, which was another big giant influence on me, um, I heard them mix kind of metal riffs with reggae riffs, and that blew my mind too. And it made me want to write music that incorporated the two. Since they were such polar opposites, they kind of blended well together in my mind. Um, and so, yeah, after hearing that stupid record, it really made me want to write music like that record. And that's, I think, where, that it wasn't just me, that we were the Expendables by then. And I think all of us really were influenced by the early Slightly Stupid stuff. And that kind of helped us shape our sound, because before that we were more like did a bunch of covers and old time rock and rolls. We were very heavily influenced by the resurgence of Dick Dale and the surf genre.
Hmm.
So that was in a lot of our early music, and so it was like this reggae metal surf kind of blend that kind of defined our sound early on.
That's one thing I really found interesting when I started listening to you guys, Ballyhoo, and all those bands, because you guys would have like a more reggae song and then do a more heavier song too. And I was like, you can do that? Like, that's
Yeah,
crazy. It was like mind blowing to me.
right. Yeah, and it's I think that's what I love about being young. Being young, you don't really have these sort of um, your what should and should be and not shouldn't be done. Like they're like I just was so naive that we just played stuff that sounded good, and we didn't really think about trying to make money off the music. We didn't think about like, will people like the music? We didn't think about any of that stuff. We just thought we just had fun.
Hmm.
And I think in all art, that's like the most important thing is to like have fun with it. And I think that's where we kind of found our groove because we didn't really stick to one genre and didn't like try to be a thing. We just played the stuff that sounded good to us in our little band room. And for some it resonated with people when we played it in front of them. So
You were just having fun with it.
yeah, it was something better than freaking school, you
For
know.
sure. Yeah. Can
Like,
agree with that.
like I remember like Adam and Raul were on the football team, and like we would get some days we'd have half days. Our school schedules were, we were getting into junior and senior year, so we kind of took whatever schedule we wanted, and we'd come like some of the part of the time the our jam room was at my parents' house
Hmm.
jamming, and then they'd have to like go back to school to go to football practice, and they're like, "Fuck,"
Yeah.
Uh, it was something that was just for us kids. It was something where it felt so cool and felt so good, and like there was such a rush to like playing a song
Hmm.
with your friends and making something up and playing it and showing them your ideas, and then having them bounce that idea off of their thought process and their filter, and it becoming something. And it still is for me now, such a rush creating a
Hmm.
song, it blossom into whatever it becomes. It's such a cool thing.
I love that. Now, I saw recently you had posted a video on Instagram talking about the Lighthouse project that you're involved with.
Yeah,
And in the video, you said, and I quote, I haven't had a drink in frickin' years. And,
yeah,
I'm going to be 21 this year, but I
yeah,
find sobriety such an important thing to talk about these days. And I think it's such a cool thing because, been trying to be more healthy in the past year. I've been working out and all that stuff. And I was just wondering if you'd be able to tell me a little bit about your journey with sobriety because I think that's such a cool thing.
yeah. Thank you for bringing it up because I agree it's very important. um Sobriety for me wasn't like a thing where like, oh, I hit rock bottom, or maybe I did hit rock bottom, um like health wise, but it wasn't like messing up my life in a way where like, you know I wasn't getting DUIs and harming people. But I think at the same time, I was, not being a great person. I look back to me being when I was a drinker. I'm like, man, I've been a douchebag quite
Hmm.
often, and I quit drinking alcohol because I was going through some crazy stomach issues. I don't know how many years ago now, like 5 or 6 years ago. Um, and and I was like having to go to the hospital and stuff. And I was like, man, like I got to stop drinking. So I just stopped drinking because of that. Um, but it's it's felt so good to be to go do what I do. Like alcohol is so ingrained in music and going, entertainment culture, going out, bars, clubs, all that stuff. It's like default mode to be drinking. And it's after I've been away from drinking, I kind of can see like this. I don't know if it's nefarious or just this kind of um, this cultural norm that no one is really choosing. It's just happening that alcohol is part of social life. Alcohol is part of adulthood. Alcohol is something that makes you sophisticated. Alcohol is required to have conversation. Alcohol is required to socialize. And it's not. After I've stopped drinking, it was a challenge to be comfortable in a social setting because it's so easy the drink, having the drink in the hand and feeling the looseness that it might give you to like have a conversation, which sounds pretty sad in itself.
Mm.
Um, the challenge of getting over that and like the self improvement that's needed to be a sober person and be as outgoing and fun as you are as a drunk person, um, is an important place to get to in your life. I think it's important to be in a place where you're feeling comfortable in your own skin. It's important to get to a place where you're feeling good about the viewpoints you bring to the world. It's important to express yourself and reach out and meet people even though it's a little scary. Those are skills that I think alcohol takes away from you.
Mm.
And I feel when you have those skills, you just become a better person. You become more compassionate, you become more communicative, you're able to express your ideas, your feelings. Um, and I think that's if everybody was on that level of expressing themselves and tuned into their internal chatter and their internal stuff and dealing with it, I think our society would improve in ways that we can't even think of. And it's such a numbing thing that alcohol is that um, it just inhibits growth in a lot of ways. And I've noticed that in my life. And I could be wrong, but as far as in my personal experience, the the desire to be okay in a social setting and the skills it requires to be okay and feel good and communicate in a social setting, um, those skills come with looking internally and healing whatever needs to be healed in order to become that person and elevate your being. Um, if all that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Like as I said, like I'm turning 21 this year, but I've grown to love what I do right now. Like I love doing this and I'd love to turn it into a career. And I just, whether we want to admit it or not, alcohol is a poison and I don't want to do anything to ruin my brain or anything. And I don't want to throw away any of these dreams. I love being able to talk to people. I love being able to communicate. Like I reached out to you. Like I love being able to do this, and I want to be able to continue doing it for a long time. I even think about having like a family in the future and stuff like that. And I just, it's you got to ask yourself. I think like, is it really worth it?
Right. And like you bring up a good point with the family stuff. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and for all of her life, I haven't been a drinker. I'm pretty sure. The baby, we were still drinking, but um, well, I honestly can't remember the last time or like when I actually quit drinking. It just kind of happened. But being a parent, like I couldn't imagine being like hung over and being.
Mm,
That's where you kind of phone things in and are less present with your kid, and when your kid might need you the most, and you're hung over and you're like, go watch TV, stop bothering me, like that stuff. Like there's not much time in a child's life, in the grand scheme of things, where you kind of give them the impression of the world, and I don't want to be drunk for that,
for sure.
hungover. And the same thing goes with your career. Your young age. And I remember, when I was your age, I was drinking a lot, and I was super into the drinking culture. I was super into going to bars. I thought it made me cool. I thought the more I drank and the more shots you do, like the more attention you get. And it's like this social coolness thing. But a lot of that I kind of regret. I wish I didn't drink and
Mm.
woke up every day feeling good and didn't waste days being hungover and just laying around. And, I wish I wish I could have gone out and been social, come home, then wake up the next day and be productive in my music career, be productive in my body healthy, being productive in, you know, adding value to the world instead of kind of just being this what I call a slarv, just this
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, for
just
sure.
over mess that just kind of around and isn't really contributing.
Yeah. It's really just interesting, like watching from the outside, because I have so many friends. Like that's like the norm right now, for my age for the most part. But one thing I've really noticed, which is really cool, is I think health has become such more of a popular thing these days. There's so many more health trends. People are working out, we're trying to eat better and all this stuff. And I think it's such a cool thing that I think no matter like where you like who you are, like we can all agree that like getting healthy is just such an important thing. It's so cool to be seeing that become a trend right now.
Absolutely. And the older I get, the more I notice how much I value health.
Hmm.
You doing it now and discovering the value and knowing the value of it is just going to benefit you when you get to be, my age. I'm in my mid 40s, and I've gone through a couple of health things where I can't do or couldn't do the things that I love to do.
Hmm.
And that it took that happening to me having a health issue and me not being able to do something that I've always done, been like, oh fuck,
Hmm.
this body that I have needs to be working well for me to go surf, for me to go play a show, for me to write a song, for me to with my kid. And if I fuck this shit up,
Hmm.
I'm myself immensely. And it makes me just be so grateful that I have all four limbs. I can hear, I can see, I can taste, I can touch, all the stuff that I have taken for granted for many years of my life. Like, it's really caused me to be super grateful because, not everybody is mobile. Not everybody
Hmm.
can do things I can do. And it's they have a hard time. And my heart goes out to people with disabilities, people with diseases, people with illness, people with injuries, like it's I don't wish bad health on anybody, man. Like it's such an important thing, and I just have a lot of empathy for people that can't do the things that I can do, and it just makes me more and more grateful every day
Hmm.
that I have a pretty decently functioning body.
100%. Yeah. Like I've grown up in a very Christian household, so I've never seen my parents drunk or anything like that. And I think that's definitely helped me to that it's definitely influenced me a lot, and I think I've seen who my dad is, and I it's who I want to become when I'm a parent and when I get older, which, I thank God for that every day. And I just think that's been a big part of it too, my religion and everything like that, figuring out who I want to be with as far as not drinking and sobriety and stuff like that too, which is such like an interesting thing to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm happy for you. You have great influence in your life, and that's another thing that not everybody has.
Hmm.
Super, that's a blessing.
I try to deliver a lot of that on my channel because, like I've always been told my whole life I'm really good at talking to people, and I was like, like clearly I have this God-given gift. I think that I like to talk to people, so I've been
Hmm.
like really trying to figure out how I can like deliver this message of positivity and like advice and stuff like that. And even just like hearing stories from you and stuff like that and being able to share with the people about all this stuff, I think it's such an awesome thing to be able to do. And
It,
it's just such a good use of social media.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I think communication. The older I get, is very important. I've been, I go to therapy, and I've been working hard on myself, um, trying to become a better person for me and for my family and for the people that I'm around. And the more I am on this path of self improvement, the more I notice that communication is a really big deal. Communication between people, between groups of people, eliminates a lot of problems.
Hmm.
People just assume things about other people
Yeah.
and, and don't ask questions. People assume people are picking up what you're putting out and getting it right, like, and becoming a better partner to my baby's mama. We're not married, but we have a family together. entails better communication of my internal state, better communication of my emotions, better communication of my needs and my wants. And for a long, long time, I was I didn't have the tools to express the things that I needed, I wanted, I was feeling.
Hmm.
As soon as I started doing that better and better, it's improved my relationships tenfold. And I think a lot of alcohol and whatever substances have been using kind of makes your communication dumb down. Like you think you're communicating well, but maybe you're not. And a clear mind helps you realize what you're doing and in the communication realm, and being able to feel okay to ask questions, tough questions, express your ideas, maybe some tough ideas, and being okay with the back and forth between two people or between groups of people is a skill, or is a thing that I'm learning is more and more important every day.
Hmm.
So kudos to you for having, this desire to be a good communicator, because if we're not communicating, we're not sharing anything, and we're kind of walking around in little bubbles, thinking other things, thinking things are true that may or may not be, and then that's like
Mhm.
your illusion. Communication isn't the only way you can figure out, where you stand with another person.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Because there's so very little communication with a lot of people these days, and if we would just talk things out a little bit better, so many problems would go away.
Yeah, just understanding, and even if you disagree, at least you can go like, okay,
Yeah,
I don't, okay,
100%.
you can be you and I'll be me, and we can go our separate ways. I don't, but I now I understand.
Yeah.
Are
If only
and
Congress could learn that lesson.
what's that?
If only Congress and the rest of the politicians could learn that lesson.
Like it feels like the people within a country, or a sect of people or religion or whatever, we're all okay on the personal level, but like the
Mm.
is acting like toddlers.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
all like kicking and screaming, expecting people to know what we want by our kicking and screaming, but when we're not really expressing it
Yeah.
with you know adult language. So
Mm.
it's funny to see how our world and the different groups of people are kind of acting like children
Mm.
still, where the people
Sure.
inside the group may be adults and acting okay, but
Yeah.
the collective group and the overall reaction or reaction of some of the groups is, it just seems like we just operate like children. And maybe that's our society, and our humanity right now is in a growing point, and we're going from toddler to adolescent, and maybe
Mm.
they all become more, quote unquote, adult thinkers as an entire human race. I don't know.
No, for sure. Now, could you tell me a little bit about the Lighthouse Project?
Yeah, so it was started by a friend of mine. Well, a friend of mine, Phil, and I kind of met through a mutual friend, Claire Wright. I don't know if you know her. She's an artist, a beautiful, brilliant songwriter, music artist. Um, but we met at a show in Denver, and he's just this cool dude that we actually connected over Gatorade in a can. I don't know if you've ever had Gatorade in a can, but it's
I've never had Gatorade in a can.
um, uh, but anyway, so we met and kind of whatever. We exchanged information, and he's this cool cat, loves to talk about ideas. And then we kind of got reconvened at another show in Northern California in Berkeley. And he's like, "Hey man, I got this cool space. He's got this cool loft in Oakland. It's like, you should come by. I do like yoga and kind of these a couple events there." I was like, "Oh man, I'd love to do like a yoga guitar, like be the musician behind like a yoga class."
Mm.
Because I'm during the pandemic, this is how my solo career or solo thing started. As during the pandemic, all the music industry was shut down, so I'd go busk. I got this looper, I got this portable battery, and plug it in and just jam out on the street, out in near the beach, or out in the kind of the spots where people hang out in Santa Cruz. And I was at this place called Lighthouse Point in Santa Cruz, where there's this big lighthouse, there's this big grassy field, and it's right on the water. There's a surf spot. And I was just jamming, and this yoga class came to do yoga on the field. And I was jamming, and then they started doing their class, and I could start feeling like the class was kind of like moving with me. And I was like, there's this energy exchange between the instructor, me, and the class. And so it's just kind of playing this really moody, vibey, looping kind of instrumental stuff. And the yoga instructor came up to me afterwards and was like, "Wait, yo, dude, that was freaking cool, bro. That was one of the best classes we've had out here ever." I was like, "Oh, that was fun for me. Like, I'd love to, team up with a yoga instructor and just play some vibey shit so they can do meditative music to it. And looping guitar stuff is very, repetitive and drony and kind of trancy. Kind of, I could see it going together well. And so fast forward a few years later, my friend Phil's in Berkeley. He's talking about how he's doing this yoga thing. He's got this space. I was like, dude, let's do something. Like I told him the story that I just told you about the Lighthouse thing. He's like, yeah, man, that sounds like a great idea. And so that's where the Lighthouse Project got its name, is from that time of me being kind of this, background music at Lighthouse Point, Lighthouse Field. And so we decided to put something together. And he has quite a community in his area, and so he reached out to a yoga instructor, and we met and we started talking, and we just kind of, Phil has this loft. It's like this old, like, school from the 20s that has been converted into apartments, and he has one of the rooms, and so it's this kind of high ceiling, I don't know, big space that is really cool. And I went and saw it, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And so we got the yoga instructor, and we just planned to have this kind of alternative to a night going out event. Super micro wellness festival event, where the first part of the night was me jamming behind yoga, and we had people come and do yoga, and then we took a break, and there was a guy making some really good, like, muffin sandwiches, all kind of gourmet little muffin sandwiches. And we had the yoga instructor was doing tarot, and we had mocktails. And I want it to be, since I'm not drinking these days, and I have this clarity. I just wanted this night to be an alternative to the model that is, go to a bar, go to your band, and drink some Coors Lights, or have have a cocktail. And something where you can go out with your friends, do something that's good for your body, maybe learn something new, something like that's gonna impact your life in a positive way, whether it's an idea, a body movement, and the set I played. So I did the yoga, we do a kind of a break, and kind of people get to explore the space and socialize. And then after that, I do a musical set where it's kind of more like a show. So, but it's more like a singer songwriter, like, I get it. I'll tell stories behind the songs, or play songs that I'm actually working on, and kind of just tell stories about what these songs are about, or why these ideas are coming into my head, where I am, emotionally and mentally, and just be very vulnerable about art and life, and and play some songs. And it's something that is what I would love to do if I was a fan. It's something that I think is needed. I feel like there's like people like you, or a lot of young people. A lot of people are just not wanting to drink,
Mm.
wanting to be around. Even if you go to a bar and you don't drink, you're still kind of exposed to this thing where there's people maybe acting inappropriate, or just being kind of not very mindful of the space around them and getting into your space, and it can be annoying or whatever. In a place where there's like-minded people that want to be more uplifted and enlightened, and searching for something deeper. um and so yeah, that's what the Lighthouse Project is, a space for stuff like that.
That's really cool. Where can people hear more about it?
Right now, you could learn more about it on my uh Instagram, Geoff Weers Music. There's no like website yet. I just did the first iteration of it, was last weekend, and we still, me, the yoga instructor, my friend Noah, who's kind of like the photographer and kind of documenting the thing, and Phil, we got to kind of meet up and kind of see what we all thought of it, and kind of put our heads together and think of ways to improve it. Go over if there was any feedback from other people, what worked, what didn't work, and plan out the next one. And part of that probably is to get a website going, and
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
so like
Get the
infant
marketing going.
this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it went super well. It was literally last Saturday, and I was so happy with how it went down, and people seemed so excited. I got a lot of feedback from everybody that was there, how much they loved it, how much they liked our set, how much they liked the yoga, how much they liked the whole idea of it, um and so yeah, we're planning on doing it again. It's just we gotta um get together and figure a couple more things out, and choose a day, choose maybe another artist, and do some tweaks and improvements.
For sure. All right, well, I got some fun questions to wrap up this last final portion of the interview for you. So, who are your top 5 bands of all time, if you could choose?
Bro,
I know that's a broad question.
so hard. Top five bands, solo artists too.
Yeah, anybody. Anyone can be on your list.
I mean, Bob Marley. I mean, that's one. Uh, Jimi Hendrix. Man, I'm gonna leave so many people out. Um, I mean, Slightly Stupid was so cute. I mean, I'm going with people that are like very influential to me.
For sure, yeah.
Um, oh gosh. Uh, I mean, Ika Mouse.
Okay.
Um,
You got one more.
Pantera.
All right. I like it. I like it. It's a very diverse mix, but I can definitely hear all of that in your music though, for sure. If you could put together your dream tour lineup of any 3 bands to tour with the Expendables, who would be on that lineup?
I mean, we would be the very first openers of maybe this whole show. How many bands do I get to choose?
3. You get
Three.
3.
Expendies. So Expendies would open.
Okay.
Um, God damn. I mean, I'd love to play with my homies, like the homies in Iration, homies in Pepper, homies in Pacifier.
All right.
That's the only ones I get. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be such a fun. Yeah, because those are dudes I like to hang out with.
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite song to get hyped to, and what's your favorite song to relax to?
I honestly, I was talking about this with I can't remember who. my friend yesterday and my partner. She's like, dude, you don't even like listen to music. You just like listen to the radio. And I listen to like local radio. Like I have a local station that I listen to. So I was saying I'm like I'm a little like self-absorbed where I don't really listen to much music other than what I'm creating. It's like takes up a lot of my listening,
Mm.
a lot of musical brain power. But when I'm relaxing, I mean, like when I get into my car, it's like on the local radio station, and so like it's literally the college radio station. There'll be, sorry,
You're good.
there'll be kids, having their whatever radio DJ class, and they each get like an hour a day or something. I'm not really sure how it works out, but there's these, college kids DJing and putting on whatever the hell they want.
Mm.
And to me, that's very fun to listen to. And it's a very eclectic mix of all kinds of genres, all kinds of, mixed tapes of all kinds of shit. So I love being exposed to random stuff because when I go choose the music I want to listen to, I kind of like, I don't know, choose the same crap and I get over it. And so I'd like to be bombarded with stuff I would never listen to, especially when I'm driving. Like I have a 1999 or year 2000 Toyota Sienna, so I don't even have, like the port to put in my phone. So it's like either I got a book of CDs, I got a couple of tapes, and the radio. Freaking old school.
Yeah. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie,
Yeah. What was that?
Coming to America.
I've never watched it. I've heard about it, but I've
Yeah,
never watched it.
it's brilliant.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
What are your favorite sports teams?
I'm not really a sports teams
Mm.
guy. Choose a baseball team is probably the A's.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not. I like surfing. That's the sport I like. So yeah, I don't really have. Yeah, I'm kind of lame when it
It's
comes to
all good. It's all good. All right. If you could leave any advice for all the musicians and creative minds out there, what would it be?
never stop improving. You can always. There's always room to get better. The better you are, the better tools you have to communicate, which I think is all what we're doing. Art is a communication, your style of communication in a way that's not maybe language. And the better you are at communicating your thoughts and your feelings and your desires and your take on life, the better you are at expressing your art. And so yeah, and like getting better at your guitar or getting better at your voice or getting better at writing, getting better at whatever instrument you're on is just getting you better to be a better communicator. And it, a painter, getting better at using color or using whatever painters get better at doing just makes them a better communicator. Same with sculptors, same with podcasters, same with public speakers, same with chefs and cooks. You're communicating, and not necessarily through language, but everything we put out as artists is a communication to somebody else about what you're feeling inside. And so the better you get at it, the more effective you are at being a communicator.
I love it, and I couldn't have worded a better way to end this episode. Thank you so much again for coming on, man. And now's the time if you want to plug any social media, tours, music, etc. Now's the time you can do it.
Yeah, check me out, jeffweersmusic.com. If you'd like to go to websites, Geoff Weers Music on Instagram, the Expendables on Instagram. I guess you can find me at Geoff Weers 8000, I think it is, on YouTube. And I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, man, and hopefully we can get to see you on tour at some point.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, DJ.
All right. I appreciate you, man.